My wife is addicted to heroin. I said it. I created this account just to be able to admit this somewhere. I have a hard time saying it even though I've been to many Nar-Anon meetings. I used to be able to say it easily, back when I was seething with anger toward her the first time we did this song and dance. I have a regular Reddit account that I sometimes post in a parenting sub on, and I don't really want this tied to my account. Maybe I will post about it there when I'm ready, but this isn't something I readily share or am ready to share. I thought I was past having to talk about this all the time or think about it every single day. When I went through this with her the first time, there was a period where I probably only really talked to other loved ones of addicts because they were the only people who could understand what I was going through. I'm sorry to say I've lost touch with all of them. I've just been sitting here on my couch crying for 15 minutes. I felt like she's been off the past few days. She fell asleep early tonight, so I took the opportunity to search the house. I found her supplies hidden in various places. I already knew, but I needed the proof. So I tore the house apart until I found proof. She strategically placed the items in different places, not all together. I feel oddly vindicated, since she kept assuring me she hadn't taken anything. It starts to make you feel crazy. In a weird way I wanted to find proof, just so I wouldn't feel so crazy anymore. On the other hand, I didn't want to find anything. She has a long history of drug use, mainly pain meds and heroin. It started when she was a teenager and was prescribed pain meds after a bad injury. She was a normal girl then, not into anything bad or illegal, not hanging around with people who did drugs, not somebody you'd think would wind up a heroin addict by the time she got to college. She got hurt playing a high school sport. She got addicted and started buying pills on the street until that became too expensive and she turned to heroin. I didn't know her then. I met her when she was 26 and she'd been clean for only about 6 months. She'd been clean off and on for years, but only for short times. She shouldn't have been dating me, or anyone for that matter, since they generally advise not dating anyone for a year when you're in recovery. I've never been a drug user. I knew very little about this world before meeting her. She didn't tell me about it until we'd been dating for probably a month or so. It was a huge shock. She seemed totally normal, so sweet, so pretty and healthy looking, had a good job, was smart and just seemed together. We got married a year after meeting. I've kicked myself so many times for being so stupid, so unrealistic. I loved her so much, still do, but now my love feels polluted or tarnished. We wanted kids but decided to wait a while. I at least realized she needed to be in recovery for a longer period of time before we took that step. She got pregnant after we'd been married about 3 years. She'd been clean for nearly 5 years and things in our lives were going great. My career was going so well. Her life was back on track, she was doing really well and being promoted at work. We had a dog that she doted on. We bought a new house. It was early on in her first pregnancy when I discovered she was using again. It came out that she'd started using again shortly before getting pregnant. We separated legally and lived separately as well, with me paying for everything. She continued to use heroin for months while pregnant, but finally entered an outpatient program for pregnant women. So I'm really rambling now, sorry. She followed the instructions during the later half of her pregnancy, was under a specialist's care, had to take prescribed opiates since quitting cold turkey while pregnant can be more rouse, but eventually got clean from everything within a few months of our child's birth. By some huge miracle our baby was born pretty healthy, small but within normal range. She suffered from very mild neonatal abstinence syndrome, with mild symptoms that lasted a few days. It was still excruciating to watch her endure, but it could have been much worse. I had primary custody and still lived separate from her, but she had regular contact with the baby, always supervised. She did everything she was told to do, passed all the drug tests, went to every meeting. That was 4 years ago. Initially I didn't plan to stay married to her. I was disgusted by what she did while pregnant with our child. I'm still disgusted by it but don't think about it like I used to. Over the past 4 years we have slowly repaired our relationship and marriage. Again, things have been going great. She made a huge effort. She was sticking with her recovery program and really seemed dedicated to it. She got really into whole body health, physical and mental, and seemed like the best version of herself I've known. This pregnancy wasn't planned. She's about 12 weeks pregnant with our second child. She was supposedly on birth control. I was scared. Her being pregnant again was giving me some sort of PTSD. We had the talk early on. I couldn't deal with what she put me through last time. And if she was tempted to do anything she shouldn't, or if she did it just one time, to please tell me. It'd be better to tell me than to hide and lie about it. It wasn't until this week that I knew something was off. There's a certain look in her eyes, her voice changes, her mannerisms change, even her smell changes. I can just see the smallest signs of when she's used any amount of something. I swore I would never let myself be as oblivious as I was the first time around. She's not been nodding out or anything like that in front of me, but I just knew. She's been getting home earlier than me due to some classes a king for a job-related certification. I think she's using during that gap and it's sort of worn off by the time I get home, but the signs are still evident enough for me. I haven't woken her up. I wanted to. I wanted to scream at her. Instead I just sat in the living room and cried. I don't know how I survived this the first time, but I don't think I'll survive it a second time. Update 1. I posted recently about discovering my wife has relapsed on heroin. She's 12 weeks pregnant with our second baby, although this one wasn't planned. I'm having a pity party tonight, so what better to do than post here? But really, I'm not ready to share with our family and friends yet. I will not be enabling her by covering up for her. I just want to get my ducks in a row. I know I'm not really alone, but for some reason late at night and days like this I feel like the loneliest person in the world. My parents know that she relapsed because I told them. The day after I found my wife's drug gear hidden throughout the house, I immediately moved our 4-year daughter and myself to my parents' house. Yeah, I know in an ideal world she'd be locked out of our house, but doesn't work that way when she's also legally an owner of the house. Plus, one thing I learned the first time around when I was dealing with her addiction is that I can really only control my actions/reactions. Trying to control her will only drive me crazy. So the easiest fastest, most stress-free way to get my daughter out of that setting was to quickly move us into my parents' home. I am planning to go get a truckload of our things later this week. I've informed her family that she's relapsed and that I've moved out of the house. They can do with that information what they want. I filed for divorce today. Luckily I have a friend who is a lawyer, not family law, and he was able to set me up very quickly with a good family law attorney. Well, I shouldn't say it's officially filed because there are still a few paperwork steps to be done, but it's imminent and in good hands. After meeting with the attorney I went to car and sobbed like a baby. I admit I cried for a good hour tonight too. I'm not usually a crier like this. I'm not ashamed to admit I've been doing a lot of it lately. Otherwise, I'm full of rage. I'm angry at her and angry at myself for giving her another chance. I'm angry because it makes me feel like a fool. When she lies to me and acts as if I'm some idiot who can't clearly see all of the signs and how high she is right there in front of me, I get so mad that I have to remove myself because I don't know that I can control myself. I'm sad for her, for me, for our daughter, for this unborn baby she's mother agreed to abort. It's really fucking depressing when you're trying to convince your wife to abort your child because she's such a mess. I should have divorced her just as I'd planned to do after our daughter was born. We were already legally separated for a while and it would have been easy to just push that in through to an official divorce. It's like I can't breathe. Then there's the whole issue of our daughter. Courts don't automatically strip somebody of custody because they're on drugs. She won't completely lose access to our daughter. She may even get unsupervised access to our daughter. What am I supposed to do then? I left all of her drug supplies on the table with a note for her to find when she got home, after my daughter and I had already left. Then I went over there today. I actually went to get some of my personal belongings and she was there in the middle of the day sleeping in bed when she was supposed to be working. I lost it. Nothing physical. Just my temper. I asked her how she liked my note. She was clearly high. She denied it. I found proof right there in the bathroom. She still tried to deny it. She said she doesn't have to abort our baby if she doesn't want to. So she's going to put us through this again? I told her exactly what I think her and I left. I felt bad and there's part of me that wants to help her, but emotionally I don't think I can. I have to remove myself. I can't get sucked in again or I won't be able to be a good dad to our daughter. And FYI, by sucked in I mean just sucked into the emotional turmoil, the constant worrying, the taking everyone on by myself for her sake. I'm not a heroin user and have never tried the stuff and never will. Anyway, I'm glad to have my daughter because I feel like she's this positive light keeping me going right now when I really don't want to keep going. I know I'm making the right decision to divorce, but it doesn't feel good right now. I feel like my life just imploded overnight. Update 2. After moving to my parents' house with my daughter, I tried to focus on building some kind of stability. I wanted to shield her from the chaos as much as possible. But you can't shield a kid from everything, can you? She's been asking why we're staying with grandma and grandpa, and I've been fumbling with half-truths like, Mommy's not feeling well. It kills me because I see the confusion in her eyes, and I know one day I'll have to explain the full story. I went back to the house to grab more of our things a couple of days ago. I thought I was mentally prepared to deal with whatever state my wife might be in, but what I walked into was beyond words. She was passed out on the living room floor, and the TV was still playing some kid's cartoon she must have turned on earlier. For a horrifying split second, I thought she was dead. My heart was pounding as I shook her awake. She groggily opened her eyes and slurred something unintelligible. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or just walk out and never look back. Her family is trying to help, but it feels like we're all speaking different languages. Her mom is in denial, talking about how my wife just needs some rest and support. Her dad is furious with her but keeps trying to guilt me into taking her back, saying things like, she needs her husband now more than ever. I wanted to yell, I've been here through hell and back for years. When is it enough? But I bit my tongue. I'm too tired to argue anymore. The divorce process is moving forward, but the lawyer warned me that custody might not be as clear-cut as I hoped. Apparently, courts are often more lenient than you'd expect with parents who are addicts, as long as they show any interest in recovery. I'm terrified. What if she gets unsupervised visits? What if something happens to my daughter while she's in her care? I've started documenting everything. Every interaction, every incident, every time I catch her high. It feels cold and calculated, but I need to protect my child. Then came the bombshell. I learned my wife hasn't just been using heroin. She's also been forging prescriptions for pain meds and apparently owes a significant amount of money to someone very shady. A neighbor approached me, someone I barely know, and warned me that strange people have been coming around our house at odd hours. I had no idea. The thought that these people might have been around while my daughter was in the house makes me physically ill. I've started looking into therapy for myself because I'm spiraling. There are nights when I just sit in my parents' driveway, staring at the dashboard, too exhausted to go inside. I keep replaying our life together in my head, wondering where I went wrong, wondering if there was some pivotal moment where I could have done something differently. But deep down, I know this isn't on me. Addiction is a beast that doesn't care about love, effort, or logic. My wife's response to all of this? She's alternating between begging me to come back and blaming me for everything. She actually said, "If you hadn't left, I wouldn't be using right now." I almost laughed. Almost. It's like she has no concept of the damage she's done, not just to me, but to our kids. Our unborn child. I don't even know what to think. She's still adamant about keeping the baby, despite her using. Part of me wonders if it's some desperate attempt to keep me tethered to her. I've met with a social worker to explore my options if things get worse. I'm terrified of what the future holds. I'm terrified of failing my daughter, of not being strong enough to see this through. But for her, I'll find a way. I have too. Now on to second story. Girlfriend mocked my stutter in front of strangers. Now she's flooding my phone with apologies, but I can't forgive her. I have a stutter and always have ever since I could talk. It was way worse when I was younger but has got better. I wouldn't stutter unless if I was nervous or overly excited, but normally I would block 1 or 2 times depending of the range of the sentence. Now that I've said that, I'll get back to the title. Later today around 5 p.m. me and my GF went out for the rest of the day. She was drinking but I wasn't, as I am still in university and I'm afraid to get drunk and do something stupid, so I just asked for some soft drinks like a Coke. A few drinks and she met some people at the pub and got along with them. I just said hello to them and asked about them, but that's really it, and was just watching football on the TV. Anyway, she was joking around with them and then started talking about me. I wasn't really paying attention to any of it until she told them I had a stutter. I was shocked by this, as I had always told her I wasn't comfortable letting people know I have a stutter if I don't know them. She then started making fun of my stutter, mocking me and telling me to talk so they could hear it. My mind went blank and I didn't know what to do. In primary and secondary school, people made fun of it because of me. I didn't do anything as I was embarrassed, and telling on them wouldn't change anything, but it still hurt me a lot and would affect my self-esteem badly. My GF knows of this and knows what I went through and said she would always be there for me anyways. Hearing her make fun of me felt like a stab to the heart. I didn't know what happened to me, but everything went blurry and it was like I couldn't hear anything except from my GF and the people she met. I managed to ask her, "Are you serious?" and all she did was laugh and asked if I was going to cry about it. I didn't know what to do. After 5 minutes of thinking to myself, trying to regather my thoughts, I paid for my drinks, not hers, and gave the bartender a tip. She said she heard what happened and was sorry I had to go through that. I said, "Thank you," and left. Not knowing what to do, I went back to my flat and sat down thinking to myself. I put my phone down and was flooded with notifications from my GF asking where I went and if I was okay. She didn't even apologize for what she did. We don't live in the same place, as we've only been together for a little under a year, but still we spent all of our free time together. 10 minutes later I heard knocking on my door and it was my GF. She said she was sorry and she didn't mean it and blamed it on the fact that she wasn't drunk. 5 minutes of knocking and apologizing, she realized that I wasn't going to reply back or even open the door, so she left. She knew I was there, as my neighbor who I was good friends with let her know I looked upset and that she should check up on me. It's now midnight and I still don't know what to do with myself. She keeps flooding my phone with missed calls, voicemails and texts saying how she regrets making fun of me. I want to be able to forgive her as I normally did that back in school, but this time I couldn't. This time I felt betrayed and felt like I was stabbed in the heart by the one person who would never make fun of me. I still care about her and still love her, but I don't think I can ever forgive her and now realize how she can make fun of me whenever she wants if we get into an argument now that she has done this. I'm hurt by this, but at the same time I don't want to break up, but will never be able to forgive her. I don't think she has told anyone about this, as no one else has texted me. I'm laying in my bed making this post and trying to cry myself to sleep. I don't know what to do and I'm seeking advice. Thank you for reading. Update 1. Before any of you asked, yes, I have broken up with her. But before I get on with the update, I thought I'd clear some stuff up that people mentioned in the comments. BTW, thank you for all the support you guys gave, I truly appreciate, so thank you very much. Firstly, I have never assaulted my now ex-GF before and never planned on doing so. I don't know how someone thought that. Secondly, yes, I did go to speech therapy before when I was young. Update 2. I work part-time at a tailor shop and had requested more time as I still had some time off of university. Unfortunately today I had work today. I didn't know if I was going to be able to go, but decided I needed the distraction, so went. As soon as I walked into the back, everyone knew something was wrong. This is because my eyes had turned red from all the crying I had done in the morning and from last night. I know it's embarrassing. I told them everything was okay and it was probably just my eyes being irritated, but they said it's not that, as I was a very joyful, happy and innocent person. Word spread around about something wrong with me until it reached my boss. He was a nice person who I considered a close friend. He asked me what was wrong, but I told him nothing. He knew I was lying, as he said I'm always a truthful person and a bad liar, and said if I didn't tell him the truth then I should go home and give myself some time to think. I didn't want to tell him what happened as I knew I would break down crying, so just said I was going through some personal issues. He said that whatever it is I'm going through has affected me badly and still sent me home. On my way home I walked into a shop. I'd why I did, but I just did. I looked at the alcohol aisle and looked through all the drinks, thinking to myself I need a break from reality. Since I had never drank before, I didn't know what to do. After 5 minutes something switched on inside of me and thought I didn't need the alcohol, so I walked back out. This is when one of the problem occurred. I remember how I left my jacket in the pub I was in last night since I stormed out so fast. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to be reminded of the humiliation I went though and thought people would recognize me in there. I had my phone and wallet as those were in my trouser pockets. I decided to man up and go to the pub. I went in and couldn't see it at first. My eyes were drawn to the area it happened and I started tearing up. I wiped the tears and asked the bartender if she had my jacket. Coincidentally it was the same woman from last night and said yes and gave it to me. Before I could leave she told me what my GF was doing when I left. What I heard just turned the knife she had already stabbed me with. She told me my GF kept making fun of my stutter, and when she realized I left she realized what she had done and left. As she left her new friends even said sucks to be that guy anyways. Walking into my flat complex greeted by the receptionist who asked I was okay. Again because of my eyes being red. I said everything was fine. She then brought up my GF, which then I started tearing up again and walked up into my flat. As soon as I walked in I fell onto my knees and broke down. Again I know, embarrassing. Remember some of the comments people told me. I decided to text me GF. I'll keep this part short as this post is already long enough. I texted her saying I could never forgive her for what she had done to me. How she had betrayed me. Humiliated me. And made fun of my insecurities. I told her saying not to contact me. Don't come back to my flat. I then said we are done. And if she wanted to even have the chance of just being friends then she would expect my decision. I then told her that the stuff she had at my flat will be in the reception waiting for you and asked if she could bring my stuff to the reception as well. A few comments told me to send her this, so I did and told her if she had a problem with it then cry about it. Since she said that to me, and clicked send. Before I got the chance to block her she immediately responded. I'd how she typed that fast, but something she said caught my eyes. She said I was drunk and couldn't control myself. That flipped a switch in me. All I could feel was pain and anger. I went off on one and told her how I couldn't control my stutter and she knew that. She still made fun of my biggest insecurity. She even told me to say something so I could humiliate myself. When she knew I was hurt by this she still laughed. She knew everything I went through. All the childhood pain. All the bullying I went through. She even knew how I had suicidal thoughts as a child. I didn't say this in the first part because of embarrassment, as I was ashamed, and to finish it all of I told her make fun of me all you want now, as she was dead to me. I sent that and blocked her instantly. I chucked my phone across the room and cried for the next half an hour. I stopped as one of my coworkers, who I would say was one of my closest and bestest friends, knocked on my door. I let her in and she saw I was crying and just hugged me and sat me down. I told her everything of what happened and cried on her shoulders. Before any of you asked, I had not had any intimate relations with her. She asked if there was anything I could do. Since I trusted her, I asked if she could get me some time off of work. She instantly said yes and said anything else. I took some thinking about this, and since she knew most of my friends, if she could tell them what happened, as I couldn't bring myself to do so. After this and when she left, I took all of my ex's stuff to the reception and told the receptionist if she could know. He let my ex GF up anymore. She said off course and said if you needed me I'm here. I thanked her and left. After this had happened my phone blew up from all my friends saying how sorry they was that I had to go through all this. I told them all the same stuff and said it's okay, but I'm still hurt and need time to recover. I thought it was all over until the receptionist knocked on my door and told me that my ex's best friend collected her stuff but didn't drop mine off, and told me that if I wanted my stuff then she would meet me at a cafe tomorrow at 4 p.m. as I couldn't break up with her over text. I was annoyed about this and went in my room. Most of the stuff at her house wasn't important, but one thing was. A watch. It was my granddad's watch, which he gave me just days after he died. I took care of that watch and now my ex-GF had it, and the only way I could get it back is if I met up with her. I don't know what to do now, and I'm still in bed writing this all up and crying because the one thing my granddad gave was in the hands of the person who betrayed me. Should I meet up with her?